I never underestimate children. Nobody should underestimate children. I try and write stories that they find really exciting and wonderful, but, they need to learn how to question. Think about that kind of stuff. Who is telling me this story?
So Cressida, thank you so much for joining us at Audible to talk about your new book and your new series, the Which Way to Anywhere series,
Yes.
which it's a series that you've had brewing for 25 years. So why do you think this particular series needed to wait so long?
It's so funny, isn't it? Because, as you say, 25 years, and my husband read it. I mean, actually, before Dragon. Dragon was now, 2003. I wrote Dragon, but I'd written the first chapters, and it was called The Alternative Atlas. And my husband kept on coming back to it over the last 25 years and said, I really love that Atlas story. Why don't you write that one? But I suppose I got into writing Dragon, and I fall in love with the world. So I suppose I just didn't really get round to that Atlas story that my husband kept on saying, why don't you write that one? I've always loved that idea, I love the idea of Which Way. It was particularly because it was COVID. And the idea in that situation that you could go to a door in your bedroom, open it up and go to another world is a really wonderful idea. And it's something that really resonates with children, I think, because they're so, children are so creative, and, a small space can become another world in a child's mind.
And what is it about magic that keeps you coming back to it again and again?
I think there are some very basic things that I always come back to when I'm writing for children, which is the things that I would love or would have loved to be true when I was a child. Mm-hmm. I really wanted to own my own dragon. I really wanted to have a magical power. These are really basic things that I think children really want to have. The idea of magic really existing. I go into a school and I say, who here would like to have a magical power? And not only do all the children put their hands up, but so do all the teachers, So it's something very basic in children that they're fascinated by magic. And I think it's something very basic in adults as well.
And the characters in this series, in Which Way to Anywhere, they are, developing or discovering their magical powers.
Yes.
Each character...
Yes.
A lot of them have quite unique names. How did you choose the names for these characters?
A lot of the female characters are named after female explorers and, people who should be female heroes for young girls growing up. So Isabella Bird and Isabird, I squashed her name together, and the baby in the story is called Annie Peck, and, that is Annie Peck. And I'm hoping at some point, little girls might look up these female heroes that we don't know enough about, female explorers, because I'm trying to provide role models for children, for young girls, to be aspirational, to be explorers, to be strong, and, so I'm doing a lot of things with those names.
And when you were Children's Laureate, one of the things that you wanted to do is make sure that children, they all saw themselves represented in a book.
Yes.
So who might see themselves represented in this series?
Yeah, that's incredibly important, I think, that children see children like themselves and think, oh, I could be the hero of this story. You don't want to do it in a preachy way, obviously, but I get so many children coming up to me and their parents saying, oh, the character of Hiccup meant so much to my kid, because Hiccup gets bullied, and children who are going through that, need somebody to be their friend almost. Or, for instance, dyslexia can be a big thing, and K2 struggles with spelling, and to have a hero like K2 who struggles with spelling and handwriting, but has this incredible Atlas gift, sends this message to a kid who is struggling with that themselves. I can be a hero. And you don't know how much children take on board, how much they compare themselves to other people, and so it's really important, those kind of things, that children see heroes like themselves and know what they can do, and know how to have confidence in themselves, and they can find their own gift. That's so important.
And in book 2, there is a plot point where.
Oh, okay. I'm busy writing book 3, so I'm trying to go back
in your mind. It's okay.
To book 2.
You'll know the bit.
Yes.
Where a character being non-specific with the language they use throws up some real problems. So why did you want to use that as a plot point?
Hang on, you're talking about. Am I allowed to just Vorksis the Vile?
I'm talking about Vorksis the Vile. We won't say anything else.
I never underestimate children. Nobody should underestimate children. I try and write stories that they find really exciting and wonderful, but they need to learn how to question. They need to learn how to question what they're being told, and think about that kind of stuff. Who is telling me this story? It's really important in today's world, where children are bombarded with a lot of information, that they do develop questioning powers. And Vorksis is a slippery character who uses language in a manipulative way, and I think in a very gentle way. Again, this is all sounding so sort of like I'm just trying to bring out children's questioning powers in that sort of way. They are also really good, because I'm talking about it in quite a serious way. I hope they really work as a joyful adventure as well. Like Galaxy's just also on another level, just about taking this really cute little creature bug and taking it back to its home planet. So there are, so there is a joyful, funny side to these as well. Whereas gently trying to bring out all of those other, which you're so picking up on, but actually, children pick up on them as well. It's not like it goes over the kids' heads.
And you illustrate as well as writing.
Yes. Yeah.
Does one of those come first, or are you always doing those at the same time?
Illustration comes very naturally to me, and that's a real advantage because children are very visually literate, particularly now. Or indeed, you see, hearing them, I'm going to go back to hearing those stories. That's the other thing. There's another access point for them. If they listen in audio and then they follow along with the books, which are heavily illustrated, and the illustrations make it feel joyful and exciting. I cut the text through with these wild, exciting illustrations, and it makes the book feel like an exciting object and not like a schooly thing where they have to sort of make an effort, and it's boring, and makes them, a book can even come to make a child feel stupid even though they're smart as anything. So the illustrations are really important, and I do them at the same time as writing the book. Not completely, but if I'm coming up with a new character, or I'm coming up with a new location, I suppose it's a bit like being a film director, in which I'm scoping out the locations, I'm doing all the research, I'm acting out the parts, and because I'm the illustrator as well, I'm able to do that. Yeah.
And so let's talk about the audiobook. You narrate these audiobooks. What was that experience like of doing that narration?
That was so cool. I have to say. It was a really great moment for me. David Tennant read my How to Train Your Dragon books and my Wizards Once books on audio, and he is a genius. I love David Tennant, so but Which Way to Anywhere is narrated by a woman, so I got to narrate my own audiobook, and that was it was actually a really emotional and empowering thing to be able to do. It's really important to read to children, even beyond when they can read for themselves. Because if you're listening, there's still space for a child's imagination to work. So for me, the reading aloud thing, whether it's on audio or whether it's parents reading to their child, is also an important part of the experience of a book. So to be able myself to read aloud and hopefully bring the book alive in a sort of acting and joyful experience, to have that was almost like that was a present for me. It was really, really wonderful, empowering moment.
Yeah.
So
was there a favourite character that when every time, you know, you really got into them, or that you just really loved voicing how they put things across?
And I can't really say who is my favourite. I love Horizabel, who's the really cool narrator bounty hunter, because she's so in charge and so cool. But then I love K2 and Mabel and... you see, I'm not...
all of them. All
the characters. Yeah. It was really good fun. And, and lovely to... Very, very surprisingly empowering. Surprisingly empowering to read your own.
And do you think
own work.
This job, creating things for children, keeps you young?
Trying to think like a child almost is very good for you. Children are very grounding. They have an instinctive sense of what the essential, the important things are in life are. And writing for children makes you think about that. And a lot of my books are about what the adults have to learn from the children as well as the other way around. I don't know whether that keeps you young or whether that's just good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, you are writing for adults as well, because adults are reading the books aloud to the children. They're listening to the books in the car with their children. So you are writing for adults as well. And so an important message in my books, I hope, is how much adults have to learn from children.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Cressida.
Oh, my complete pleasure. What a lovely interview. Thank you.